just to break the fourth wall here, I was going to actually check a review because I tend to do that when it comes down to any game I review, because I am not a game reviewer. And I pretty much was trying to gather some material, but they kind of this particular YouTuber that was talking about Daxter on the PSP, which I'm about to talk about, almost spoiled Jack Tree, which is a game that I wanted to play. The thing is that I'm setting up, different games for, the Jack and Daxter series. And I'm trying to go from, the first all the way to the last, which being the Lost Precursor or something like that, or the last Precursor or whatever it is. And pretty much the goal here is to finish like Jack 2. I finished Jack 2 like months ago, and I just finished Daxter. So here I am actually finish those games before I jump in to Jack Tree. And thank goodness I did jump into Daxter before Jack Tree, because Daxter is set in a place where it's before, and in some ways it's before Jack 2. But man, people are spoiling Jack Tree as if I played it and I never ever touched Jack Tree before, which is kind of actually, I don't know if it's the only game that I ever never touched. Actually, no, I'm lying. I Here's the two games I touched when I was a kid. Um Jack 1 and 2. Never, and also maybe racing. Jack X, being X Combat Racing or whatever it is. Yeah, one of those names. That's pretty much the three games I touch. The ones I didn't touch is Daxter, which I finished, Jack Tree, and also I never heard of the freaking Precursor, the last game that, from what I heard, destroyed the Jack and Daxter series. Please don't spoil me with that, but that's what I heard. And also, please no spoilers. I mean, I don't really get enough views to actually warn people about spoilers. But this is for my sake. The thing is about when it comes down to these game reviews that I do, that are very low key in some cases, is just for, it's kind of like, having a trophy case where I showcase it, but instead I'm doing it in this channel. Like I finished Jack 1 and 2, I finished Daxter, and I'm just here just to place my trophy of, or just placing proof that I finished the game, that I played the game, that I lived those moments from finishing it. And it was a good game. I really enjoyed Daxter. I really enjoyed, I guess, him in a sense that for something like this being, from what I heard, the best PSP game out there, it sort of take me back whenever I do think about the gameplay, the mechanics and everything, and also just the whole and package of Daxter is such a perfect handheld game. And of course I play it on my PC, but it is such a perfect handheld, that I relive, and I really enjoyed so much of what Daxter throw in, of just these, different mechanics of just him having like a booster or something like that, just to, being an exterminator, and also his little quips and stuff like that when meeting girls and meeting people basically, and just being Daxter, and those moments that I really cherish a lot. Even though that this game is not afraid to really focus on the main goal, not afraid to focus like, oh yeah, we have to get to Jack, we have to rescue him, in the middle of the game, which is kind of like something that Daxter was supposed to be focusing on. But you kind of see more of the character of Daxter, of just him just being high mighty, and also basically being a Daxter game. The same thing with, Ratchet and Clank, with the Clank game. And when it comes to these sidekicks, their focus is something that is important, and also something that I noticed within these games, of just like having not seen big compared to the PS2 or PS3, but at least having a centered world surrounding, the handhelds, and also something that's not that big, but it's still packageable through its time when it was released. And man, there's times where I wish that I played this on the PSP, on the physical PSP. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't play the PSP because how? Okay, you think I'm gonna spend the amount of the inflation money for like retro games, especially when it comes to PSP, PS3, or PS2 games? I've just seen how expensive they are, and I have to buy it from DK Oldies or some sketchy eBay or Craigslist or something like that, and it costs like $40 or whatever. Exactly. No, I'm not. Okay, I'm not doing that. I'm sorry. Okay, emulation is a thing, so you know what I'm choosing. Okay, if you know, you know. But I kind of just wish I played it handheld. I don't have a handheld device. I don't have any of those emulation handhelds. But I kind of just wish I would play it on that. I would just imagine myself if I was like, playing it in the car, playing it in the subway, even though I barely go out. That would have been nice. That would have been a moment. That would have been like, experience, I would say, when it comes down to gaming. The gaming that I kind of remembered. But other than that, yeah, Daxter is a good game. I don't know about much about the boss battles, being crazy about it. But, of course, this is just my thoughts of just like the overall game of what I've seen. And I've seen places from the Jack 2 universe, from the city that he's in. And I always am interested in that cyborg, you know, place, that cyborg kind of, or just like cyberpunk, or first generation cyberpunk um, area that they're in. And even though it's not really that open, it's almost like a cut size. It's like a perfect piece of pie compared to like, the PS2 Jack 2 being like a whole pie. And I don't know about Jack 3, it could be like several pies or something like that. But this was just a little piece of something to experience. It wasn't that long of a game. And I didn't really complete it in a sense where I wanted to collect all the orbs or all the eggs, and all that. I wish I did, but I didn't really have much time to actually do that. I finished the game and that was it. That's all I needed just to see it all. Like pretty much this is mostly about Daxter. I feel like Daxter in the most sense was good enough to actually, you know, have its own game, but I feel like it wouldn't live up to him being like the full on hero for the many characters that he bumped into uh during his journey. Thing is that I there were so many moments in the game where it was like the mechanics doesn't seem crazy. Nothing seems to really knock my socks off or just be amazed or whatever with the mechanics because I've seen it before. But for a game like this, with different ability, different, I guess different puzzles when it comes down to using your hover on the his little tool that he has there, and also the those mechanics were pretty cool, but it wasn't enough to really get me surprised or anything. I had a fun time with the rhythm aspect of the game, of it being like with whenever you like save the game or sleep, you kind of like go into this like different movie references, which was charming. I don't know about the vehicles of the game, especially ones that one that actually involve like going to a field, which is inside the house of the boss that you're working for. And he's not really a boss, he's like an old man that wanted to actually give Daxter a job or something, or see some potential in him. And we one thing about this game that I like, we see more aspects in the world that it was in. Jack 2, in my opinion, didn't open the world much when it comes to this cyberpunk universe or city that they're in. But Daxter, in a ways, helped with that. We saw the hotel, we saw the gardens, the inside, back in the, the enemy's palace, as I call it, and the restaurants and stuff like that. We see more of like these normal, everyday working people, and just see where they work. Especially going to the subway, which is always a cool, like that's kind of like a cool level just to see. Especially how fast paced it is when you step on the subway trains or something like that. It's not really. It's probably called something else, but you know what I mean. The metro area, the little subway down. That's pretty much reference to that. And yeah, the whole entire game, I really liked it. I feel like it was weird because it didn't have enough quips of Daxter enough for it, but there's a part of me where that's a good thing. And also, like, it didn't really need to be anything big. It was the perfect size. If anything, this is kind of like one of the best. PSP games I've seen so far that I played. And I play a lot. I own the PSP. I still have it. And also, I'm continuing to actually finish a whole bunch of PSP games that I never finished, being story wise. Because when it comes down to reviewing games, it needs to be something that I love and I cared about. But for like, games like this is something I care about and I grew up with, which is, Sly Cooper, Jack and Daxter, the PS2 All Stars, basically. Other than that, yeah, pretty much, I don't know. When playing this game, I don't want to spoil it. I don't want to actually give anything. The only thing you should know is that it's probably best to play Jack 2 before this. And yeah, it's a good game. Definitely check it out. Now, if I head to spoilers real quick, which, yes, I'm going to talk about spoilers. I feel like the ending doesn't make sense. The boss battle, it, like pretty much, especially how, I understandably, blew up where Daxter worked, and that old man, that was like, hard to watch. But at the end, everyone was okay. Like, there was no sense of like the ending, and oh, you just all of a sudden just rescued Daxter, and here we are. Like, what time is this taking? Was this during like when the end of Jack 2? Like, I don't get that. Like, I feel like there could have been more. Maybe if I did a little bit with the collectathon, collecting all the collectibles, basically the eggs and the orbs. It could have been a complete, package. It could have been there's some complete like explanations throughout this, but it just felt rushed. The ending felt rushed. It felt cut off. And, I guess that's my spoilers. Other than that, yeah, there is so much to discover in this game, I feel like. But it was a good time. I really enjoy it. It's definitely a true PSP game itself. Thinking about Daxter and just Daxter, the name derived from Jack and Daxter. Heck yeah, it's full on PSP. Like, it makes sense. And I finished it. Uh, it was a good one. There were some parts where I was like lost in whatever. There were some parts where I'm just like, I'm not feeling this. But almost all of it was an enjoyable game. There was just something peaceful about playing something from like '06 or '07 of like a classic, especially from a handheld. And if there's like anything that I love more than anything when it comes down to gaming, PlayStation, from, the PS1, PS2, my PS3 and PSP over there that I have in my room, especially I've seen some games like, PlayStation itself is always something in my heart, would always be the superior and always will be basically my system that I sort of like, embodied with. I don't know. That sounds weird. I'm trying to think of the right words, but man, I I grew up with Spyro, Crash, with the PS1, and then you have like Jack and Daxter, you know, you have like, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper, and all of them. And then moving up, you have Skate, you have like the Tony Hawk series, you have this Assassin's Creed. Like, I don't know, Sony and PlayStation in general kind of showed me a lot when it comes down to just the richness of gaming that I can never have back. But, especially how expensive, these other newer games are. My goodness, just returning like, these memories of these games. What a true moment. That I fulfilled, and I'm happy. Other than that, yeah, that was my review or thoughts in a sense, just my thoughts, to be honest, of Daxter. There's some puzzles that are just mind numbing. There's some scenes where I'm just like, I'm not sure about that. And also, it was kind of weird that Daxter was silent with this whole game. But overall, God, it's such a good game. It is like, now thinking about it, I would play it again for sure. Other than that, see ya. And yeah, Daxter, well, love and peace.